I'm not clear about what I'm going to say or what you want to hear about me or about our work. But before I even begin, I would like to say one thing. It's a rare opportunity for me to come to Pakistan. I never dreamt that I will be able to come to Pakistan. Anybody would invite me or there would be an opportunity. So when it first came, although this is the busiest period in our theatre work, somehow I made time and I can't stay all the days, but still the workshop period I will be here. And after coming here, the welcome we received, I mean, if I say impressed, it would be understatement. I was just overwhelmed by the welcome, and I was so much surprised to see that people have heard my name or there was something about my work. It's really a surprise. I thought
your play started only your first play with
blues, whatever it is, I'm really overwhelmed by it. And although I'm very vague about what we shall be doing in the workshop yet, and I think some others also share the same thing. We are all a bit vague about what we are going to do. So we thought that today at least in the beginning, let it be a kind of interchange. I mean, trying to know each other. Of course, the way we introduced, I don't remember 3/4 of the names. And I can't associate them with face. People have to happen more. I want to know everyone personally if possible. Now, I don't want to speak very long now. Let us divide into bits and pieces. We'll take turns in speaking a little more about what I and my colleagues in Calcutta and suburbs believe in and are trying to do. Even that is not something fixed and final and rigid, still evolving. And there is always a gap between what we want to do and what we can do. There's always a gap. Probably what we want to do is much more important than what we are being able to do, because that keeps us going, keeps us evolving. Well, as I already said, if we were doing proscenium theatre, the conventional city theatre in Calcutta, when we began, that was 1967. But from 72, 73, we were having some serious questions about the proscenium theatre for various reasons. From the communication point of view, that theatre being a live show, it affords, it gives the opportunity of direct man-to-man communication, person-to-person communication, which the video, the film and other media don't give. There the communication is between images and human beings. But theatre is human being and human being. So we can say theatre is human action. Theatre is here now. What is happening here now. Well, I am sitting in Lahore, Pakistan, and you are also here. We have all come to the same place on the same day at the same time, and something is happening between us. Well, that is theatre. If I had been speaking and you saw my face on the television screen, it will not be direct communication, apart from the fact that my face is not photogenic at all. So, theatre, where this direct communication is possible, there should be the minimum of barriers between the two parties of human beings who have come together, the performers and the spectators. And the proscenium theatre, I at least in the beginning found full of barriers of distance, of levels, different levels, light and darkness, as if the performers are denying or ignoring the existence of the spectators, that kind of arrangement. So we wanted to create a theatre where we are much together, where direct communication can be fully utilized. Then it can become human action. That's one point of view. Secondly, being born in this subcontinent or in what is termed as the third world, One cannot help being aware of what rot goes on around us. I mean, even if I get 3 square meals a day, I know that hunger exists. Even if I'm not directly ravaged by war, I know what war is. And all these absurdities and stupidities and cruelties and other things happening around us, we cannot help being aware of that. So just as a human being, as a member of a society, we are not satisfied with what's happening around us, we want to change for something better. Even if we do not have a clear idea of what the future society will be, still, just to get out of the oppression we are suffering, we want to change. So that's another feeling, emotion that's there in many of us, probably all of us, sometimes consciously, sometimes not too consciously. Now these two factors sort of help to shape our theatre right from its beginning, went on changing, and we found that the theatre being doing in Calcutta. That means we are out of contact with the very people, the people who are capable of changing the society. We city people, middle class people, lower middle class people, we probably will not be able, by ourselves we will not be able to change. Maybe a very small fraction of us will be a very important element in changing the society as a catalytic agent. But we cannot be the principal force. Principal force will be given, can only be given by the working people. And in India, the working people means generally the people living in the villages. So we found an urge to at least establish contact with the villages, with the people, working people. Factory workers in the cities as well, but villages mainly. And we found that in India, and I'm sure it's the same with the whole third world, it is possible to get born in a city, live the whole life, die without knowing the country, without knowing the villages, without knowing who my people are. It's possible, right? So that was our urge. It's not that we will go to the villages, we will teach the villagers to be conscious about society and change the society. I mean, we have no pretensions like that. All we know that we ourselves will have to establish contact. We'll have to know about them. Now the theatre we were doing, the proscenium theatre, is absolutely impossible to take to the villages. I mean, it's possible. First, we'll have to ask the villagers, do you have electricity there? The answer is no. Then we can't work our spotlights. Do you have a motorable road? The answer is no. Then how can the truck carrying our sets go there? And even if they have those things, semi-prosperous village by the road, can you arrange the stage and other things, all the draperies and the paraphernalia? If they say yes, that means the rich people of the village are arranging it. Then that's not the purpose of our going to the villages. You see? So we had to evolve a kind of free theatre. Free theatre means not that we will not touch money. Something unclaimed, we will not touch it. Even if somebody offers, we will not touch. Not that. My concept of free theatre is that where payment of a certain amount of money, a specific amount of money, is not the condition of entrance. That is free theatre. When we are performing, anybody and everybody can come. After the performance, in English we say we pass the hat, we don't wear hat, so we pass the towel. We pass the towel. If you like the theatre, if you like the movement, if you want to be part of it, you pay whatever you can as the voluntary donation. That's not payment, that's participation. And as a matter of fact, we do it on principle. Even to the poorest places we go to, we do it on principle because we feel that theatre is not a thing where the performers are at the giving end and the spectators are at the receiving end. It's participatory, both ways. It's a human action, it's participatory. So that's what we try to do. Therefore, we have to evolve a kind of flexible, portable and inexpensive theatre. I could have mentioned just the first two terms, flexible and portable. Automatically it would become inexpensive. Flexible means we can do it anywhere, in any condition. Open field, okay. No electricity, kerosene lamp. If not even that, daylight. Daylight fortunately is still not charged or taxed. It will be, which means we cannot use heavy sets, heavy costumes, spotlights and other things. But these are the things which are expensive in theatre. So automatically, if you make your theatre flexible and portable, it automatically becomes inexpensive. Then you can evolve free theatre. That's the condition. Now, from what I said, it becomes very clear that for our theatre, at least now, sometimes, content is the starting point. Content, the subject matter of the play. That is the starting point, not the form. Form follows content in our case. Actually, I feel something, or I've come to know something, come to realize, be conscious of something. And I feel that I must tell it to others, communicate it to others. Why? Because I want to gather a crowd, more and more and more people. Why? Because I want to change this society, and the society can be changed by not a handful of people, but by many, 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 many people. So that becomes an art, that becomes, you see, the content itself. If the content is social change, that content determines the audience. The content determines the form, is flexible, portable, inexpensive. Because we want to go to the villages, that's why it's needed. Coming from the content, you see. Then later on, maybe when we have time, we can explain. This content determines the choreography, the composition, the method of direction, the plays itself, the structure of the play, the acting style or methodology or whatever, everything comes from the content. That is the way it works. There may be other theatre groups who may be interested in form. Absolutely valid. In painting it has happened, in music it has happened, in dance it has happened. That I want to take this art form of dance or theatre or painting or music from point A to point B, evolve new forms. So from impressionistic art and then cubism, abstract art, all that kind of thing, you see, it has happened. Very valid. In theatre also one can do it. All I am trying to say that is not our purpose, our group's purpose. We are not involved in that. But we have to explore a lot to find out the most suitable form to project the content which is in hand. So we do have to make experiments, we do have to explore. But we are not, repeats, not an experimental theatre group. We do not do experiments for the sake of experiments, for the sake of evolving a new form. We do it because we feel the art of communicating our content most intensely, most effectively. That's why we do the experiments, that's why we experiment. So this process, now I can sort of put in a summary form. But you must believe that this process went on through years. I didn't believe when I thought about these things that free theatre is possible. Everything in this society based on money, based on buying, selling, everything costs money. So how can free theatre is possible? And everybody, all the theatre people around me told me that no, theatre needs at least a minimum of cost. So whether it works or not, I didn't know. But from 73 to now it's 88, about 14 years work, we have found that it works. It works. With certain limitations naturally. I will talk a little bit about the limitations. Number one, this kind of theatre we can never make professional. Professional in the sense, having whole-timers. Because whole-timers will pay. You will have to pay something. Even if the whole-timer is not doing it for money. Working for a pittance, even then that pittance is a certain amount of money. One has to pay. Now free theatre cannot be done with that. So it cannot be whole-time work. If it is not whole-time work, automatically the time of work gets limited. That's our principal limitation. But what we gain by this, that those who are in our group, they have come because they felt the same urge of communicating certain themes, certain content, certain matters to other people. It's voluntary. Therefore, the dedication is assured. They are not coming to our group to further their own personal careers or anything like that. Because that is not possible. In our theatre, that is not possible. Careerism is not possible at all. Secondly, we cannot advertise in the newspapers. That immediately throw the whole economics out of it. It can't be free theatre. So we have to depend on word of mouth publicity. The spectators who come, we depend on them. If they like it, if they like our movement, let them join hands with us and tell their friends, bring their friends and relatives and others. That's the way we have gone. And to our surprise, we found that it is working. There are 3 or 4 ways of a theatre group to raise money. Number 1, selling tickets. Selling tickets means it also presupposes in 99 cases out of 100 that the tickets will have to have different prices. If you hire a hall, certain cost is there. If you make all the tickets 2 rupees, then your cost is not realized. If you make all the tickets 20 rupees, then your house is not full. So you have to grade. So we face a kind of paradoxical situation where you may be preaching the establishment of a classless society from the stage, whereas the 5 rupee wallahs are thinking that I am superior to the 3 rupee wallahs and I am inferior to the 10 rupee wallahs. That situation is there. So we do not sell tickets. In our theatre, even when we perform in the city, in a hall, a room, even then it's first come, first served and a kind of donation. For a long time we have been performing in Calcutta, hiring a kind of lecture hall where nobody will perform a theatre. We perform on the stage, on the floor, people sitting either all around, or we arrange the seats in such a way that they are more with us. I mean, we act behind them, by their side, we surround them sometimes doing acting. It's a minimum of barrier between the acting area and the spectators area, that kind of thing, a kind of intimate theatre accommodating something like 80 to 120 people. Now these rooms are much less costly. And for a long time by convention there used to be a donation of 1 rupee. 1 Indian rupee, nowadays it will not even buy 2 cups of tea. I mean, I'm talking about the cheaper tea shops, not the posh shops. I mean, the street shops, they charge 50 paisa each nowadays. Street where you have to stand and take tea, those stalls. The streets, at least the areas I move in, we get 40 paisa. As soon as you enter a shop, it's 50 or more. Anyway, and the cheapest cinema ticket costs more than 1 rupee. But it has been like that up to 1986 October. It was still 1 rupee. And even if the person doesn't tell us, if we realize that even 1 rupee will be difficult for somebody to pay, it's free. If he or she asks, says, I have got no money, it has happened. It's free, provided there are seats. It's free. There's also a donation box, which at least the middle class people of Calcutta forget. I mean, if you want to pay something extra, you can put something. But it's there. We do not solicit. We do not sort of pour out. So even in Calcutta, the economics is very interesting. We found that it works. If the house is more or less full, our expenditure is realized. When we go to the villages or other places, I mean, we do not charge any fee from our hosts, those who invite us. They pay the railway fare, they host us. Host us means if we have to stay overnight, they have to give us the night meal, which is not very difficult in even the poorer villages here. They are very hospitable. What they do, they go on collecting not just money. They collect rice and dal and potatoes and things like that and make a kind of theory. and that's what they give us. And sleeping, if there is even a primary school, sleeping is no problem. A few days back, we went to a village. What they did, beautiful thing. Each of us, each of the members of the group, they sent to one house in the village. And we being city people, we eat much less than the village people. We can't eat much rice, you see. We take more protein than people. So it's very easy for them. One each to the house. So I'm eating in one house, in next house another person is eating, then we come back. We had a funny game later on. I said, no, don't discuss it here. Later on when we take the bus, we will pool our knowledge. Who bought what? People boasting that I had this, I had that. That kind of thing. Anyway, so, but we don't charge any fees, and sometimes if we find they can't even afford the railway fare, that also we try to subsidize. I'm deliberately going into the economics because I think it's very important just to be confident that it works. Now even then there are certain expenses, particularly if the hall in the city. Say the hall costs 50 rupees for hiring. We found a hall costing 50 rupees per day, that means per evening, that performance evening. Over and above some expenses like people coming straight from the offices, some kind of inexpensive snacks and tea, and some printing costs for our program because we have different plays on different Fridays. So at one time when we began this kind of thing in 1975 or 6, no, 73 we did it by membership system. But membership fee was also very cheap. 75 we started with 1 rupee business. We found that our production cost for one Fridays per our performance days, comes to about 70 rupees. And the place can accommodate 100 to 120 persons, depending on the play and how we arrange the seats. So if everybody pays 1 rupee, there's a clear profit of 25 rupees. That's the economics of our Calcutta shows, where we have to spend money. Now, villages, maybe we have spent something out of our own pocket, or it's just we have not got anything, right? But there are certain rehearsal expenses. A cup of tea for long rehearsals, some snacks, these things. And nowadays we have been kicked out from the hall, from the room we got free for 7 or 8 years for rehearsals. Now we have to pay something to get a room. These expenses are there. How do we realize those? Now, I don't know what you call them. In Delhi, I found they call it sponsored shows or invitation shows. Now, I think each place has got its own English. I'm sure there's a Pakistani English, and there's not one Indian English. There are many Indian Englishes, and Kannada English, and Tamil English, and Bengali English. Now, that English will not be understood by an Englishman, not even by a Bombay person. The English we use in Bengali. So we have our own terms. We call them call shows because people call us. I found that nobody in Delhi or Bombay understands what is call show. Somebody has to come to Calcutta to know it. So call shows, normally an established proscenium theatre group in Calcutta will charge, I don't know how much it is nowadays. I don't keep track. But it used to be something like 3,000 to 5,000 per performance, plus other expenses. Now we used to ask even the maximum for a long time 300 rupees, nowadays 500 rupees. But as soon as the host says, sorry, we can't give you 500, the next thing is how you will show it. If it is free theatre condition, they will just raise donations and not sell tickets. Then how much can you pay? If that person says we can pay you 100 rupees, okay, 50, okay, nothing at all, only travelling expenses and some refreshment and tea, that's also okay. And we found nowadays that 90 cases out of 100 it's free. They can't pay anything, only the expenses, train fare and meals or whatever. But if we get 500 from somebody or 300 from somebody, as our expenses are very little, that lasts a long time. So it works. It works perfectly well. Perfectly. Now this is what we have been doing, basically. And these Friday shows were in Calcutta. Sundays and other days, holidays, or we tried to go out with call shows and other things we accepted. But this whole system underwent a drastic change in 1986 for several reasons. Some negative reasons, some positive reasons. I will begin with the negative reasons. Thanks to the advent of television and radio and serials and others. I mean, city people, middle class people within the TV circuit, they are not coming to theatre very much, whatever kind it is. Our kind, their kind, whatever kind it is, they are not coming. So in the cities we found that the number of audience is dwindling. We are not having full houses. And also, suffering from lack of time, we prepare a long time to prepare one play. Yeah, we take a long time to prepare one play. Usually it's from 6 months to 1 year. We have one production of an hour and something. An hour and a half or something. It takes about 9 months of that. So we cannot give them new plays all the time. And clientele being short and no advertisement. And maybe city middle class people sometimes have the idea, if it is only 1 rupee, then it must be a very bad thing. That also is there. If it is 10 rupees or 20 rupees, it must be worth going. That kind of attitude is also there. That's the negative thing. We were getting a bit frustrated in doing this in the cities. We are all city people like that. Now, then one of our colleague groups, about colleague groups means, I believe that this movement, this theatre, is based on a philosophy, as we are not experimenting on evolving a new form. There is a philosophy which is the base, and if the philosophy is the base, it's bound to be a movement. So there are other groups that come who are believing in the same philosophy. So I call them the colleague groups. They have their own identity. At the same time, we work in very close collaboration. When we were running the Friday performances in Calcutta, for example, it's not just our group that will perform, but sometimes their group will also come and perform. You see? Sometimes we'll have joint productions. Each group is very small. So when the large cast group is needed, some members from other groups will come and join in a common production, and there's no group ego hassle. At least, actually, I was afraid there will be some group ego. Shatabdi is leading, Badal Sarkar is directing, he has written the play, and I have to travel from suburb to Calcutta for the rehearsals. But it has worked the other way. Now the pressure comes from the other groups. When will be the next joint production? And we have forgotten the differences. We have come to a position of friendship where when other members of other group come and we are having tea, we can say, hey, you are outsiders, you won't have tea. That kind of joking terms we have come to. See, we are very close now. So that's what I meant by movement. Now, a colleague group, one member of a colleague group, he had this idea. He took a theatre workshop in a village with middle class people in a village. So there was one very good leader of that group in the village. These two people together, one of our colleague groups and this village group. They had this idea of having a 3-day walk through villages and choosing those villages which are not directly approachable by railway or motor bus or anything. One has to walk. Or in fair weather, maybe these cycle vans, not cycle rickshaws, but cycle vans, used both for carrying loads and human beings. But that also in only fair weather. So they made a kind of survey, going to a village, meeting somebody at random, maybe a school teacher, or meeting somebody in a tea shop, if there is a tea shop, and telling them, supposing several groups, 70, 75 people, we come here and we sing some songs and we do some theatre. What do you feel about it? He said, you are welcome. Some place they said, we'll arrange for your midday meal. Somewhere they said, we'll arrange for your night stay or night meal. But in reality, first time, we realized it later on, they did not believe those two young people, unknown young people saying these things. So they did not do any publicity, because if they say to the villagers that the theatre will happen here, and the theatre does not occur, then their lives will be in danger. So they did not make any publicity whatsoever. They very confidentially told some friends and made some arrangements. First they saw our faces, yes, the 70 people are coming. Then they started collecting the food stuff. Then the cooking began. So what happened, one village I remember, at 8 o'clock we reached the place. Sorry, 6 o'clock we reached the place. And by 8 our program started, finished at 12:30. We went to eat. We found the cooking is only half done or less than half done. And we ultimately had our dinner at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So lunch at 5 o'clock, dinner at 2 o'clock, that will have to happen. You see, because I can't blame them, they're not believing us. 75 people coming. But there was tremendous response because tremendous complaints also that we did not know about it. I came to know about it accidentally, otherwise there would have been double this audience if we had known that something like this is happening. Because they are so culture starved that anything happening is welcome. And we had lovely contact. The only way I can describe it, that all the people who participated there, the first trip, we got high. Now, how useful it was, that's a different question. What is the effect of this to the villagers? That's a different question. We can't gauge really, we can guess. But what happened to us, we know. Our experiences, we know. Actually, we wrote out something in Bengali, unfortunately, that's why I haven't brought it, and published it. Realized the cost to selling that book. Our experiences and emotions and what we felt and what happened in that trip. Now, after that experience, we unanimously decided to stop the Calcutta shows, regular shows. Not altogether, but the regular Friday shows we stopped. So now our routine is, from 86 October, that the dry season, that is, there's less chance of rain. From November to March, April, every Sunday and holiday we'll try to go to some place and perform opening, whether by invitation or without invitation. If it is without invitation, if we have a contract somewhere, we just tell that person that we'll go to a village, you suggest a time, you suggest a spot. And we go there and perform and pass the hat and come back. We pay the railway fare and all that. Last season, 86, 87, we performed in 3 places like this. I mean, not being invited. In one place, the group lost 9 rupees. In another place, the group lost 11 rupees. In the third place, the group gained 11 rupees. I mean, through these voluntary donations. And in the villages, this is quite a common experience. The woman may be coming, bringing out a 20% bit, just 1/20th of a rupee, putting it on the chadar and taking back 10 paise. That means she can afford only 10 paise, but she will do it. She hasn't got change, so she took change from there. In our last 3-day trek we had last November, that was the third one we organized. We collected 500 rupees from 8 villages we covered, 65 of us from 5 groups. 500 rupees, out of which 250 rupees were in small coins. Not notes, not even 1 rupee notes. In small coins, 250 rupees. The rest were mainly in 1 rupee or 2 rupee notes. Hardly any 5 rupee notes. 1 or 2 maybe. No 10 rupee note. So that shows the amount of participation in a common movement. I call it participation. People may not agree with me. It's not that they are coming watching and we are showing. Not that thing. So this is what we are doing now. Am I taking too much time?
No.
Now, I should talk about the limitations a bit more, because that's part of our experience. And facing the limitations, we learn, we explore more to overcome those limitations. We want to see this society change. I deliberately can't use the term, we want to change the society, it's too much. We want to see this society change. We want to participate in the forces that would change the society. We want to associate ourselves with it. We ourselves, theatre by itself, will not change society. But we want to participate in that process. That is the most we can say. And we have chosen theatre as a medium That's our medium. Why? Because we love theatre. If we love painting, we have chosen painting as the medium for social change, or music, or whatever. There are many groups who accompanied us in this theatre thing. There's a choir group, singing group, people's songs, the revolutionary songs, the people's songs. So they have taken that as their medium, singing. So we have taken theatre. Now when we have taken theatre as a medium, we must master as much as possible this art medium. I mean, it appears to be something which goes without saying, but unfortunately it doesn't. It doesn't. If you want to sing ghazal, if you want to dance kathakali, if you want to be a painter or whatever, or a sitarist playing sitar, you know that you have to revise for, if you are working somewhere, 3 hours a day, and you go on doing it for 6 years, only to be able to play to your friends. Isn't that so? So that kind of work is accepted in every art form, that this has to be done. Unfortunately not in theatre, not in our country. I don't know about Pakistan. If I do not stammer, if I don't have stage fright, then I am an actor. If I have acted in 2 plays, I am a director. Theatre is something which there's not much training is needed, not much learning is needed. It's a kind of attitude we have. Unfortunately. Now, at the same time, we love theatre. We cannot say that we will practice, we will learn theatre for 6 years, for 10 years, and then only after acquiring the right to perform, we will do it. We haven't got that much time. We have to perform tomorrow. Perform, prepare a play and perform now. How can we stop? Because we have this urge to tell what we feel to others. And theatre is what through which we... So we have to go on performing. So what is the solution? The solution is perform. Say what you want to say through theatre. But be ashamed that what you are doing is not really theatre. So that you feel the guilt and you learn and learn and learn and train yourself and train yourself and train yourself. Unfortunately, many theatre people, I'm sorry to say, many theatre people who have taken theatre as a tool for social action, they are particularly guilty. They think, I have a good message. And I have taken theatre, I have taken the structure of theatre here. And I am doing it. If people don't like it, they are reactionary, they are reformist and all the terminology, you know. They are anti-people, they are traitors, they are CIA agents, they are this, they are that. Because my message is revolutionary. Therefore, my theatre should be accepted by all right-thinking people. Not accepting that fact that my theatre is absolutely boring. Therefore, I am neither serving the purpose, my purpose, what I want to communicate. If people walk out, if people fall asleep, then whatever the message is, it's useless. So that is happening all the time with revolutionary theatre groups more. That's why I have to make this statement, which seems to be absolutely obvious. This training is necessary. There's no escape from it, and it has to be, in our case, for theatre people. As we have to go on performing, it has got to be a simultaneous process. Try to improve each performance, each production, by training more and more and more. And as we are involved in free theatre movement, each member of our group has to have his or her own means of livelihood. That means he or she has to work somewhere or other for a wage, right? Teaching in a school, working in a bank, whatever it is, or working in a factory for that matter. So only the leisure time that person can give. So that makes all the more difficult. This training and performance, preparing for the performance, these are limitations. But I do not find a single way of getting out of this limitation. Because as I began and then deviated a bit, I said there are several ways of raising money. I came to the selling of tickets. I didn't mention the other two. They're very simple. Second is asking for grants from government, cultural department. Now the question is, if I am talking about social change and government gives me grants, it automatically presupposes that the government is also interested in social change. Right? Now, I do not believe that. I personally do not believe that our government is interested in social change. If I believe that government is much more powerful than me, then probably my trying to do it through theatre would not be necessary. So how can I take grant from the government and still do something which government is not interested in, if the government is interested in the very opposite, retaining status quo? So it's out. The same thing, I mean, collaborating with advertising companies, big business, whether it's by collecting advertisements in souvenir programs, or whether it is through a kind of collaboration started now, Charminar Cigarette Company and this and that. They pay for the publicity and all that. Glossy programs and things like that. They're the same thing, then they must be interested in changing the society. So either we are hoodwinking ourselves, something is happening. Of course the thing is there, we'll take their money but we will not serve them. I think it works short term, not long term. Because there is not a single organization in the world which will say, we will go on providing you so much money every year throughout the life of you and of me. Everybody will give it in a time-bound thing. I give you this much money for 1988. Whether I will give you or not in 1989, that's a different question. That's what now. Now, 1988 I utilize the money. I gear my theatre to money. 89 if the money is not coming, I can't do my theatre. So it is to my interest that 89 the money comes. So I will not do any theatre which the sponsor can find, the funding agency can find dangerous. So I will be cautious myself. Gradually I will be cautious myself. I will do a kind of, I can use a lot of revolutionary jargon and still make a very safe theatre, very safe, right? It can be done, which nobody, neither the government nor the big business are afraid of. That kind of theatre we can do. So we'll go on doing it. It will be just hoodwinking ourselves, a kind of facade, revolutionary facade, not doing anything real work. So it doesn't work here, taking money. But what is surprising, even not selling tickets, not applying for government grant, not collaborating with big business houses, and not having any rich patron or patrons, we find that free theatre is possible. And what's more, probably this is more relevant here, we had a little taste of this during the period of emergency, Indira Gandhi's emergency period. We had a taste of that. The theatre which is dependent on all the paraphernalia of stage, auditorium, spotlights, sets, could be stopped very easily. Stopped very easily, right? Our theatre could not be stopped because they were not that efficient to find out where we are performing when. We go to a village and perform. How do they know? If they know it afterwards. Even if they put a trap there, we are not going to that village the next day anymore. So a guerrilla theatre is possible provided the theatre is free theatre. It's flexible, portable, inexpensive theatre. Then it's a guerrilla theatre, it's possible. They can stop Curzonburg theatre, which they did. Curzonburg theatre in the central area, part of Calcutta. We used to perform every Saturday afternoon, and one time, for several years running, we had about 3,000 gathering there in Curzonburg. You see? That they stopped, the police, during emergency. But then we started doing it in halls again, a kind of underground show. We will rubber stamp the name of the play, the date of the play, the time of the play, but we will not put down the place of the play, where it is happening. The entrance cards are given. It's a ground floor hall on the street. If anybody inquires what is happening, it's a private function of an association, no theatre. And we booked 6 consecutive Sundays for this kind of thing during emergency, and we were doing a play, Bhoma, which we knew will not be tolerated during emergency. Within the second day, those who came, they started collecting, paying this 1 rupee donation, taking 10, 15, even 20, we call them tickets, without even consulting their friends. They will bring them. I think the thing worked this way. They came and saw, and they probably thought or felt that if a group can do this kind of theatre during emergency, then it's my duty to bring my friends and associates to again participate. I'm sure outside the emergency period this wouldn't have worked. It has not worked. But during emergency, all the remaining 4 Sundays were absolutely full. Then we tried to extend it, but the hall kicked us out. Found another hall. Oh, that's a long story. Maybe we'll discuss later on to those interested. But the point I'm trying to make, theatre has got this flexibility. Free theatre. If you make theatre free, you can make it free from the clutches of money, which is a very difficult thing in this society. But it can be done. Now, just one more point and then I'll stop. As you get old, you talk too much. I have to guard myself against that. There may be an argument. If you do not use sets, do not use props, do not use costumes and these spotlights and things like that, then the magic of theatre is gone. For a long time we have been used to all these things. Even when a very strong and popular folk theatre exists around us, still we think in those terms. Without these things, the magic of theatre is gone. Well, what do we use? What do we use if all these things can be dispensed with? We use the thing which we cannot do without in theatre. The sets, we ask ourselves, will it still remain theatre if we don't use sets? We find the answer, yes. If we don't use spotlights, yes. But when we ask a question, if we exclude this thing, will it still remain theatre? The answer is no. Then we can call that thing the indispensable, essential tool of trade of theatre. That is the human body. Minus the human presence, theatre will not occur. So the human presence will be there. Does not cost anything, provided the person is volunteer. Does not cost anything. That will be there. But then, the way we civilized people use the human body, the more civilized we become, we use less of the human body, don't we? Huh? We use the extremities, the arms, the legs for walking, and that's about all. The basic source of energy, the spine. We urbanized, civilized people have become spineless. We are forgetting that a spine exists and it is flexible, it's not a ramrod. We don't use. So this potential is of the human body, and I'm including voice, our sound making capacity also part of the body. We have to explore more and find out the potentialities, right? And do it. For that, training is needed. And a very strong theatre can emerge with training. Very, very strong theatre can emerge. And even those who are doing conventional theatre in cities and other things, nowadays in training process, this realization is happening more and more and more. Therefore, every training institute in training course in theatre nowadays are using yoga and other exercises and use of the body. But maybe 50 years back, these things were not there. The use of the body was not very much there. In the folk theatre it was there, but in city theatre was not there. Now, we can say human body, but in reality, is it not the human being? Because theatre is, after all, not circus. It's not acrobatics. It's not gymnastics. In theatre, mind is equally, if not more, important than the body. Isn't that so? And in our case, when we start from the content, then mind is the starting point. Because what we know, what we feel, what we realize, that's mind. From there it starts. Then we express it through our body. So mind is more important, of primary importance. So it's the total human being that is important. So at least in our training process, I don't know what you understand by workshop. We have been using the term workshop here. And a little bit of talking we did, I found that workshop, different people have different ideas. Even we five who have come from India, we might have different ideas, although we know each other well and we know the similarities. We may mean different things by the term work. So I am just saying, on my own only, what I believe as workshop. The workshops I conduct, for example, in our group or elsewhere also, we start from the human being. We do not start from theatre. It's a theatre workshop. But I at least don't start from theatre. I start from human being. It's like this. First you are a man, then you are a theatre man. I'm using the term man, but please feminists, excuse me. I mean all human beings. I don't know how you put it. And I find many fine philosophies getting distorted. Many fine arches, feelings, sentiments getting vitiated, getting poisoned because of certain human factors. This poison we acquire right from our childhood, from the society, competitive society we grow up in. We acquire that poison. Our society says, as it is not based on equality, it's like a staircase. I, being a middle class person in a city, born in the middle state. So right from my childhood, my parents advised me, my well-wishers, my teachers advised me, try to go to the next higher step. Do not look down, then you will feel giddy. Avoid by any means to go down. Doesn't matter if most of the people are below the staircase, with practically no chance of getting up. You try to go to the next higher step. Therefore, in our school, write an essay about your ambition in life. Read stories about Henry Ford, who was so poor when he was a child and so rich when he was older. So it gets into our bloodstream. Try to go to the higher step. I mean, we know by common sense that middle class as a class cannot go to the next higher step. If I go up, I will have to elbow down the next person. We know that. That is the order of the day. Elbow down the next person. This competition, this gives rise to ego. And also this does not allow me to be natural, to express what I am feeling. Because right from my childhood I have heard, do this, do not do that, learn manners, behave properly. My parents told me. Now, learn manners. Who decided these manners? My parents did. Where did they get them? Their parents told them. So it's the society from which we get these certain norms. You have to observe that. Women are not to come out of the house. Women sometimes have to cover their face. Women have to obey their husbands. All these norms, we have to observe. We have learned all these things. People are not equal. In this situation we have developed, so how can we be natural? So right from our childhood we begin to wear a mask. We begin to wear lots of clothing. We have iron armor. We have to present ourselves in a better light than we are. We cannot afford to show our real face. Not even to ourselves. After some time we get so much used to the mask, we feel that's my natural self. This term naturalistic theatre, such a paradoxical misnomer. Naturalistic, that means we are behaving naturally. What we are really doing, we are copying what we do in our day-to-day life, which is the most unnatural thing. Most unnatural thing. We go for an interview. We face the interview board. We measure in how many decibels we are using to say, may I come in, sir? Or when one of the interviewers, being in a superior position, makes a very rotten joke. I mean, we decide how many millimeters our lips will part. Then we smile. Because we are presenting, we have borrowed the necktie from the neighbor, the suit, and all that. We have polished our shoes carefully. We are not presenting, we are trying to present ourselves in a better light. And the worst part of it, even when I am bereaved, somebody near and dear to me has died. I am afraid to weep, because weeping is a sign of weakness. I am afraid to weep publicly. That is the things we have acquired. Hiding. And theatre is not hiding, theatre is revealing. My God, how does one do it? So again, if we come to the human being, so we have to deal with that. Theatre will come later on. First, learn to open out. How do we learn to open out? It's no use saying somebody, come on, open out, be free, feel free, come out with it. No, it's not possible. If I ask him, for example, now go there and do whatever you like. To hell with what people think or whether people laugh at you or not. You do whatever you like. Most probably he will go there and smile sweetly and come back. And not being able to do anything. Right? Particularly if he feels that so many people are sitting and watching. And maybe, if not openly, secretly laughing at him. This is what we are afraid of. People ridiculing us, laughing at us. That's the greatest weapon of this society. Do not get ridiculed. Therefore, you conform. I mean, at least with the middle classes, that's one of the greatest weapons. But theatre is expression. So we have to create certain conditions in the workshop where people automatically begin to bring themselves out. One of the conditions is no observer allowed. That means if you do something ridiculous, you are unsafe. Aren't you? You are vulnerable, you are unsafe. But all the others are participants, they will have to do that same thing. So everybody is equally unsafe, therefore everybody are equally safe. But one observer sitting there, the most... So these are the conditions we need for our training. First, see what you are, how much you are hiding, whether it's possible for you to bring yourself out, whether it's possible for you to relate with the next person. Because theatre is teamwork. Can you hold the next person's hand and say that he is my friend, he is my friend, she is my friend? Are you coming closer to the process of working together? Or are you thinking, oh, he is getting all the advantage. Oh, he is not so qualified as I am and he has got such a big role in the play. Are you thinking in these terms? Or you are bringing people closer? Because minus closeness, theatre is useless. Minus mutual trust, theatre is useless. So these are the first things, at least, that I try to do in my work. If theatre is rivalry also, then what right we have got to talk through theatre about changing of society? Because through rivalry, through elbowing other people out, or elbowing ourselves in, society cannot be changed. I'm sorry if I'm lecturing on something quite different than theatre, but these are the things I feel. And to me, theatre will be useless if these things are not there. Not just to me, to many of us. Without these things, without these human things, theatre is useless because theatre to me is human action. It has relationship with our way of life, what we feel. Even outside the world of theatre, what we feel, how we feel, what attitude we have to others, to our friends, to our enemies. Yes, everything. All this we have to deal with. Otherwise, the kind of theatre, at least I believe in, cannot possibly be done. It can't be based on competition. It can't be based on commerce. Can't be based on money. Can't be based on, in the vulgarized sense, professionalism. I don't mean really in the vulgarized sense, professionalism. Can't be done that way. It can't be done cold-blooded. It just can't be done cold-blooded. And emoting and making other people, the spectators, making them weep. And I'm thinking all the time after dinner feast or whatever the date I have. It can't be done that. You've got to get involved in yourself. So that is the workshop I believe. But most probably we will not get any chance to do that workshop because this is only a 6-day session and not even about 5-6 hours a day. And there are so many to exchange amongst us, so many things we would like to know about your work, about your theatre, about your situation here, about your politics, about your social customs and norms, everything. I would like to know. I'm sure the others will like to know. And I'm sure you would like to know about us, about our work and our experiences and all that. So much there. I don't know, whether the kind of workshop I am talking about will happen or not, or whether you would be interested in having that kind of workshop or not. I am not sure. I am not sure. If you were, I probably would be very happy, because I cannot always relate through talking, and particularly when I am talking alone, or even when it's a two-way thing, dialogue, I cannot always relate. But the workshop I conduct, through the workshop, I can relate. I can get more friends. I can come to know people better. So in my own interest, I would like to have some workshop sessions with you. You see, in my own interest. It's not for training. No training is possible. 5 of us trying to work differently in 6 days. Don't think in terms of training at all. You see, I'm not thinking in terms of training, and don't have that. But just to relate more. And also, maybe the another purpose of a workshop session would be, this is the thing we do in our group. So you see this process. But the only way of seeing is not describing it, but doing something of that, a kind of sample. This is the way we do it, and for this purpose. That purpose can also be served if we can have some sessions also. Doesn't matter whether Badal Sarkar or Roti Bartolome or Maya Rao, whoever conducts the workshop. Doesn't matter. Somebody from your side can also conduct the workshop. Some sessions where we come more together, where we can touch one another, we can hold hands, what should I say? Even doing a little bit of horseplay amongst us, getting to know people better. That is what I am interested in. So I have frankly expressed my opinion. But the conditions, when we do workshop, people using that gallery, they are not coming here because they are thoroughly bored. We are sitting and talking. But as soon as we begin to jump about and dance around, be sure there will be a crowd. So I don't know whether it is possible in this place at all. And if that happens, probably all these gurries will go. This cold, we will have to sit on the cold floor, which will be washed clean or something. So I don't know. All these things are very
everybody can go to my house
impediments.
and do it there.
I don't know. From my workshop, I will speak. I cannot work in this country. This is a historical reason. During the imperialist occupation of our country, imperialist rule, Bengal had been one of the leading places in certain revolutionary activities, including terrorist activities. And theatre and our Bengali folk form, folk theatre, Jatra, played a very important role in that movement. And naturally there was repression. The whole troop getting arrested and harassed and that kind of thing. And a law was passed by the British imperialists, which meant suppression of theatre. That means you have to submit a script to the police and get it approved and this and that, which are very familiar to you. This law was imposed. Now in other places probably this kind of revolutionary movements occurred, but probably theatre wasn't used that way. So that law was applicable to Bengal. It was a West Bengal government law, not other places. Then naturally with independence, correct.
It was called the Dramatic Performances Act, and it was passed. It was called the Dramatic Performances Act. It was passed in 1834.
It is still enforced in Pakistan.
Restriction Act.
Yeah, it is still enforced in Pakistan.
Yes,
It is still
exactly.
we have to
All
give
India.
that censorship.
Because it was passed on a play, Bengali play, which was not done in West Bengal. It was being done in Lucknow. I think it was being done in Lucknow.
Sorry, it passed in all India, but what happened? In Bengal, the suppression was real, whereas the other places, the suppression was not real. In other places, there may be many people who are not even aware
It
of
still
the
applies here now.
existence of the law.
It still applies
That's what I'm
here.
trying to say.
In Pakistan, the British should
It
continue.
was for the subcontinent.
The censorship laws of governing theatre, censorship, it's still the same act.
Same act.
And then there is an amendment in post-independence India, which in fact makes some of the regulations more stringent. It's called the Punjab Amendment it initially applied only to the state of Punjab in divided India, and later it has been extended by state legislatures to their own respective states. For example, it applies to Delhi also, the Union Territory of Delhi. It has been, for example, in a place like Delhi, at the moment administratively it is kept in abeyance because of a certain pressure from the theatre groups who were able to organize themselves and oppose it. But in many parts of the country it still applies. Where it actually is implemented is in places where the state is in a position to suppress the theatre movement, when theatre is seen as a threat. Whereas the situation at the moment is not like that in Bengal, what Dada was talking about.
Now, anyway, thanks for enlightening me. I was not aware of these things, but the point still holds that it's what he said makes it more clear that now it's up to the state governments to see how much of that will be applicable. Now, what is happening in Bengal? As soon as any government, a government in West Bengal applies this, that government gets associated with the individual. Because it was applied before, very much. So no government, whether it's communist or Congress or whatever, no government as yet dared to put that in West Bengal, because that government will become quite unpopular, immediate association with the imperialism. So up to a certain point we are enjoying that freedom. We do not have to submit script to anybody for passing before we perform. But I don't know how long this will remain. And one day or other it has got to be applied. It will be applied.
Whether you can perform anywhere in city or villages, there is no problem. There's
No problem means during emergency what they did.
Yeah.
Still then they did not use this law. They did a kind of police action outside the law. Because of course if you organize a trade fair, for example, or a book fair for that matter, which is very popular in Calcutta, a book fair or a leather goods fair, leather production fair. These fairs are always there during winter. So part of the Maidan means a public place, park belonging to the government. You have to take permission, you have to take police permission, right? So that is what they apply. So what they said, after emergency, most of the street theatre groups stopped in their own volition. Some came to me and said, what should we do? I said, I don't know. You will have to decide what you will do. All I can say that our group is performing next Saturday anyway. We will do that. And we went on performing. Then the police came, mounted police and trucks and everything. He said, one day I was acting and the police inspector talked with a member of our group and said, ask Badal Babu to contact me and such police station and all that. I am the OC of the station. These things happen. So after that, they rang me up. They rang me up and said that you'll have to take the permission of deputy commissioner, this and that, central or something or other. So I said, why? We had been doing this for a long time. No, they said, no, sorry. I said, why is it necessary and all that? And they said, no, it's a public place. And I said, well, we are doing theatre, we're not disturbing anybody. The public place is for it. I mean, he was speaking very polite. He began by saying how he is such an admirer of my plays and all that, which is bullshit, you understand. Anyway. And it was a almost overt threat that if it is done, then the group will be arrested. That we could not face at that time because they are all in service and many people's families depended on them. They cannot afford arrest and eventual dismissal from the service. So we retreated. But after that, this underground shows and other things, villages and other things, we could continue. No confrontation.
In Punjab, especially, I'm talking about the Punjab, the conditions are more worse. You can say, even if you go to the villages, then the bureaucracy and the police and all the other elements are so much all over there. If you went there, and the next time the commission would be there. And the villages, they are more, it is easy to reach in the villages. The roads are there, the rails can go there. So it is more difficult over here to do the play in the small towns or rather in the villages, as much as in Lahore, especially in big towns. Because we have got that rule still now applied. If you want to do a play, then you have to submit your script to the deputy commissioner, then get the permission from there. And even for the Alhambra or the government institutions where the art institutions are there, even then they will send their script to the home department, and there the commission will sign it. So it's okay, now you can do it. So even now which we are doing it, even it is a sort of guerrilla theatre. We are not taking the permission.
Yeah, I think that is the only answer because that's what we had to do during emergency. And as I just said that we enjoy relative freedom so far, so we are lucky that way. And we are lucky in another aspect. The government is always very inefficient. That's a good thing, Fascism is not possible in India, I think, because for fascism, tremendous efficiency is needed. The German efficiency is needed. So that German efficiency probably the Indians will never acquire.
And is it true that
I'm saying only as a half joke. I'm half serious about this.
But in Pakistan it's possible.
Possible? Is that efficient?
is it true that one person was killed after you did a performance of Julus? Or which play during the emergency? Which one?
I mean, you're basically correct, but
What is
performance,
it?
silhouette performance.
What was that?
That's a story we'll probably talk about maybe later on. Let us,
That is a Vietnam.
because these stories are very interesting. What happened, the police operation, other things. We can talk about this maybe in some later session or after dinner session or all that.
But there's another question which is very related to our work as well. When you start your work, you tell us you work in the halls and when gradually you come to that case, you should leave those things. You have a membership, you have got a membership plate, then get the money from the member, and then leave your plate. Tell us what kind of problems do you face in the membership pattern of the membership, and then you change to the 1 rupee form.
Well, I hadn't finished with the political situation thing. I just mentioned one aspect of it. The second aspect is peculiar to West Bengal. I don't know if you know, in West Bengal for the last few years we have got a left front government. Communist Party Marxist is the leader and some other revolutionary groups, traditionally left, formed that government. Now, before that Congress was the government. And Bengal has a tradition, kind of anti-Congress tradition. Congress means big business, means establishment, means this, right? And that tradition is there. And the Bengali middle class, particularly the urban middle class, city students and others, has always had a left orientation. Now, when the left-front government came, there is a confusion. It's not, the enemies are not so clear. That this is the establishment, the bourgeois government, and we are the people, revolutionaries. It's not so clear. Now the revolutionaries are in the government. And after they come into the government, some people are feeling that as days are passing, they are behaving more or less in the same manner as the Congress were behaving. Only they are using still a different jargon. Now there is a very tremendously frustrating situation. That way, Bengal is at a disadvantage compared to the rest of India now. We enjoy certain advantages, but there is a disadvantage in a way. A tremendous confusion and frustration is happening. Now, I find that our theatre movement is flexible, portable and expressive theatre. In the hands of any left, real left political party, they should realize the strength of this. They should utilize it. But in Bengal, at least, I don't know about the other places. In Bengal, it's not happening. And as a matter of fact, one middle-ranking leader of LF party from the government was foolish enough to say clearly, not in Calcutta, somewhere else, in a district town where a group of like ours exists, that he was asked, why are you against our theatre? What we are doing? And he openly said, well, what you are doing is anti-establishment and we are establishment now. Well, intelligent, I'm sure the Chief Minister will never say this, the left Chief Minister, but he was foolish enough. But in a way, he was foolish enough to speak the truth, that is what I feel. The others will hide the truth and find other excuses, but they are not sympathetic. And during our second 3-day trek through the villages, in one village, it was very close to the Panchayat elections. Panchayat, you know, is the rural smallest unit. That
Local bodies.
local body. Very close to that. So many people suspected that we have come there to propagate on behalf of certain parties. It was wrong. That was not the fact. So in one village we were not allowed to work, and even threatened with dire consequences and all that. We had a hell of a time because it jeopardized our program so much that the third day we could not even continue. We had to practically go away from there. The in a reverse direction. I mean, not to the next village. You're supposed to stay there. These things have happened. Now, this again shows the picture that a left political party who professed to believe in democracy did not allow an innocent thing like theatre to happen. This has happened. So that is a little more other aspects of the political. So from many frustrations, many operations, particularly rampant unemployment amongst the educated or semi-educated youth, that kind of thing was there. Many were becoming lumpen or hooligans or things like that. But basically honest maybe, due to this social conditions they were becoming so. During that period, many of them, as well as the other extreme, the brilliant students of the universities and colleges, socially aware students, they came to the movement, but maybe with a common dream that revolution is round the corner. Day after tomorrow, revolution will happen. What will happen after revolution, they were not clear about, but there will be a direct, quick, violent change. And that is all we wanted. So that is something all we dream of, Even sometimes I dream of. Something will happen like that. Only I know that it's not going to happen in my lifetime. But that's what we dream of. And you young people naturally dream more. That's the strength of youth. Dream. You have to have a dream for the dream to come true. I'm quoting the lines from a very popular song. The line is very real to me. You have to have a dream for the dream to come true. If you can't dream, then you cannot make social change. You have to dream. So they dreamt it. And it was a fiasco. At least in the cities, it was a fiasco. Calcutta it was a fiasco. Fiasco means it at a tremendous cost of terrific torture, killings and all kinds of things. These are the worst kind of operations I have seen in my lifetime. You see that kind of thing. Raiding cordoning off a place and bringing out every youth and just shooting them. That kind of thing happening in the middle of the night. Nothing. And they call it encounter. Police was attacked, therefore it is happening. This is our direct experience. So after that, again a tremendous cynicism and frustration amongst the youth of Calcutta has happened. To which the other factor I mentioned just now, the left government, has added further frustration. And now a kind of, chalo kuch hoga nahi. So each for himself. Let me see what is there in it for me. Why should I work in a political party unless I am paid something either in money or in kind? These things, you can see my age. I was already in a job, finishing my college, university education, already in a job when 15th August 1947 happened. So I was quite mature when all the struggle for independence happened. So in those days, people doing trade union will not think of acquiring money, but nowadays they do. People doing a political party will not think in terms of getting certain advantages, even if it is protection from the police or whatever. But nowadays these things happen. And with this there is a kind of, what should I say, cultural fascism. Cultural fascism, I call it. I don't know whether others will call it. Which is coming through TV serials, the worst kind of films from the factories of Bombay and Madras and other places, kind of escapist entertainment coming out. These cartoons, these comic strips instead of books, all these things, that kind of thing, and great festivals which outwardly seems to be expressing the spirit of, cultural spirit of such country and so on. Nowadays the festivals are international. We export culture to Russia or America or whatever, they bring their culture. All these events, now it's so easy to create a craze or crazes, series of crazes. That's what's happening in Calcutta. But Calcutta is a city which I love and hate. I've been born there and brought up there and all that. It's a love-hate relationship. And I can see this whole thing crumbling. That's the political situation there. So in a way, for a theatre man like me, or like any member of any group like ours, the situation is such that every other day we feel that chalo kuch hoga nahi, chhod do ye. I'm making a frank statement. Kuch hone wala nahi, chhod do. Why we do not leave theatre or leave this kind of life? The answer is to be found somewhere else. Chhodenge to karenge kya? We leave it, what will we do? Those people who were watching TV before the advent of TV, going to the film, going to cricket test match, gossiping with friends, all these were their entertainments. Huh? They have left all that. Doing theatre, they have given all their leisure time to theatre. Now their society is people of their kind. Their families have given them up. Because even they, sometimes their own sister's child, they haven't seen the face yet. The child may be 5 years old. They have to count, how many children does my sister have? That kind of position they have come to. I have come to that position. My son's wedding took place. I had not a show, but an important rehearsal. And I said, nothing doing, I can't go in the evening. I did not attend my son's wedding. I went there in the afternoon, came back. Well, it's not nothing to do with any sacrifice or anything. That's the way we feel. That's the life we have chosen. One fellow was telling me the other day that at my home people know my brother, but people don't know me. If I get arrested, nobody will identify me. That's the position I am in. On the off days of our group, he feels absolutely bored. He doesn't know what to do. He has got no other society. So if we leave this theatre out of frustration, what can we do? We can't gossip anymore. We can't watch TV anymore. We can't go to the cricket or football matches anymore. So again we come back to the very same thing. So we are doing it out of a compulsion. There's no other way. We have got no other choice in a way. Unless we find a similar medium where we can say the same kind of things to others, communicate. So that is, it's not the political situation as such. That is as much as I know. Now your next question, what was this? I forgot.
That was the way of working, you started working
membership to this. When we left the proscenium theatre, we were not very clear what we are going to evolve or do, accepting that the proscenium theatre is inadequate for us, unsuitable. So we thought in terms of this intimate theatre in a room, and we made arrangement with the Academy of Fine Arts. We discovered the room, a second floor small room which was practically unused. So we made a proposal that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday we'll use it. Lump sum money. For 2 years we took it. And we equipped it in a very simple way. Certain, not spotlights, certain lights, certain switches, not dimmers. So that some zoning effect can be done, and having a kind of flexible theatre, arranging the seats differently. At that time we introduced the membership system. It was 4 rupees admission fee and 6 rupees annual fee. 10 rupees on the first year, 6 rupees the second year. That was 1973. And our commitment on our part was there will be a minimum of 3 different productions each year and a minimum of 1 performance in a week. We kept that promise. And after you have seen, and it will be, when you are a member, 5 performances are free. That means you pay 10 rupees on the first year, 5 are free. And 6 rupees next year, and again 5 are free. If you bring a guest, 2 rupees, that kind of thing. And after you have seen 5 performances, if you want to see more, then you pay 1 rupee. That was the system we evolved. But later on, after the first year was finished, people came to renew their card. But at that time, the Curzon theatre started, and we fell in love with the open air theatre. So we did not know whether we'll continue. I said, okay, your membership is automatically renewed. You don't have to pay anything. Each show you go on paying for 1 rupee. That will be. We were afraid that if we take membership for 1 year, then we are committed for another year.
How many members do you have at that time?
About 500 we met who paid this money. We have some life members also, about 15 or so, who paid 200 rupees. Somebody told me 200 rupees for live membership, that's too short. So I reminded him that look, it's not your life, it's our life. We don't know how long we can continue it. So I don't think 200 rupees is very... Anyway, but after that we stuck to this 1 rupee system. But again I repeat, in our entrance cards, this 1 rupee is not printed. Amantran Patra is printed, which means invitation. Still today, incidentally, I should say that nowadays we have to make it 2 rupees because, and that I forgot to mention. I told you that we are going to the villages during the dry season, but we are not neglecting Calcutta. So that's also very important we feel. So every year, at least once, we have a concentrated theatre festival in Calcutta. Last April, we had a 10-day festival where 4 groups participated, and we tried to concentrate means many days, unless it's a very long play, 2 plays in a day. Usually our plays are rather short, 1 hour each. 2 1-hour play in a day, or 1 hour play, 145 minute play. So a concentrated festival. This year also in April we are going to have a 10-day festival. So there we have to make it 2 rupees. That's the way. So this 1 rupee donation system is much less complicated. You know, rubber stamping the interest cards and this differentiation even that you pay 1 rupee but your guest pays 2 rupees, we wanted to do away. Although the seats are the same, first come first serve. But we wanted to do away with this. So this system is much easier for us.
Did you face any opposition from religious quarter?
Again, it's an advantage of Bengal. In Bengal, violence in the macro sense, that is war or nuclear weapon, and in the micro sense also, bride burning or even just subjugation of women and things like that, that kind of violence. And we use the medium of humor in that play. Not only humor, but a kind of slapstick humor we used. I think it can be very strong when we use a very serious theme in this time. We used a portion of Ramayana. You know, the Indian classic Ramayana, which in many parts of India is considered to be sacred, sacrosanct. About Rama you cannot say anything. But in Bengal, we can ridicule, we can use it, we can satirize. We know it because that very same play we performed somewhere and we faced opposition. Not opposition, after the play, severe criticism. Just like this. No, you can't do it to Rama. Full stop. I said, what have we done? We just quoted Ramayana without any distortion. The story is there in Ramayana that after all the interesting part is finished, the war is finished, Rama is established on the throne, and then a Brahmin, the highest caste, a Brahmin son died, which should not happen in the period of Ramayana, died when he was a child. Everybody used to live to a mature age in Rama. He is the great king, right? And one child died. So Rama went out investigating and found a Shudra, the lowest of the caste, is doing tapasya, that means meditating, because he wants to go to heaven. And Shudras have no right to that religious thing. Therefore Rama killed that Shudra and everything was all right. The son of the Brahmin woke up. You see, that story is in Ramayana and we just took it out. We have not ridiculed Rama or anything. It's just pure and simple Ramayana without any distortion. But in the context of our play, let's see what... That was the objection. You understand?
I think
so I'm sure this play, if we want to take it to Bihar, for example, in a village, or UP, we will not be allowed to do it, or there will be a tremendous reaction. Don't you think so, man? Tremendous reaction to this. I don't know about South India.
not so much.
Not South India, I think. Because in South India, conducted a workshop in playmaking session. Many of the participants made plays where they took incidents from Ramayana and Mahabharata and made use of that in satirical way. South, I think, is...
I think probably, apart from this context, the question is also asked because, I think we must make this clear that in the Hindu religion, मतलब उसमें कोई मान्यत नहीं है. It's not यानी कि drama, theatre, dance and all that is permitted. here probably this question was asked more with this in mind, that because all these performing arts, these forms, are actually prohibited in the religion, so one faces a lot of pressure from obscurantists and fundamentalists here. And I mean, we can't even think of doing something like this. I mean, there are many contradictions within our religion too, and one can certainly take out episodes from the Quran and make satires on them and make slapstick comedies out of them. But I mean, we cannot. I mean, we just cannot think of it. What probably he meant was at the moment that even the form, even doing theatre, is something which is really not acceptable to people of this sort.
Also, like painting and sculpture is forbidden.
First of all, Hinduism is not one religion but a combination of many religious faiths.